Well, all right, we're rolling. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. And I'm not even sure how to start, but Josh Wypij and Josiah Ball are joining me today. Josiah is the host of Your Authentic Life podcast, founder of Authentic You Ministries. Josh Wypij, associate pastor of Pioneer Christian Fellowship. Josh Wypij, you're like the foremost guest on this podcast by far.
I have a new podcast called the Unauthentic Life.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I was thinking about starting one called the medium authentic or like mid authentic or mediocre life. Your mediocre life podcast. That's what I think
Your
I'm
mediocre life podcast.
Yeah.
That would be something I'd listen to.
Same. I'm totally in.
It's super relatable. Yeah.
It honestly should be my podcast, The Mediocre Life. What's your podcast about? Honestly, it's about everything. Like, we got weight loss on there. We got everything.
Yeah.
I told Josiah the last time I was on his podcast, whenever that comes out, and I told him about how I always wanted to start one called, instead of calling it like Michael Scott had Somehow I Manage, mine would be Somehow I Pastor. So it's either that, or I always thought like another good one would be Just Trying to Get Through Life Without Looking Stupid. And that would be a good one.
You know, Josh,
that's my goal.
You keep telling it and somebody's going to steal it. So you just got to do it. Cause like the whole, like Somehow I Pastor, and you get pastors on there as guests and talk about their experiences and like weird stuff. Like it'd be brilliant. So I say, just do it.
But that's the thing. I don't want to be like stuck into a groove. Like today, what are we talking about? Like, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's kind of
so. By the way, like we were supposed to do that podcast together, Josh Wypij. Did you forget? It was your idea, but I mean that, you know what I mean? Like we were supposed to do a podcast talking about The Office and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. But
yeah,
but anyway,
it
didn't happen.
I'm a good idea guy.
That's why it's the Mediocre Life podcast, because we come up with ideas and don't follow through. So
right,
sure,
yeah. Well, apparently, so we're going to talk some alien talk today. Like, apparently, the government just like came out fairly recently, within the last, year and a half or so, and started talking about how aliens are here. And nobody cared. Nobody cares.
No.
So here's the thing, though. Like, I've been thinking about this. All of the apocalyptic, like, end of the world movie scenarios are all coming out. They're all kind of converging at the same time. We've got AI, we've got aliens, we've got pandemics, we've got all this stuff like the threat of World War III. There's like all this stuff going on all at the same time, and I just think people are overloaded. The other thing about it too is that I think that the way that we consume information today is so different, and it's so disconnected from other people. Because it used to be like when there wasn't so much content and just so much of a 24-hour news cycle and just like everything just constantly coming at you. It used to be that everybody would kind of hear about these big developments and big news stories and big world events all kind of at the same time, like on the 7:00 news or whatever it was. And then they'd have the water cooler conversations about it the next day. And like everybody kind of received information this in largely the same way and at the same time. Now it's like I'm receiving information at a completely different rate than what you two are and like what other people are. And so it's just kind of like we hear things and we're hearing so many things, and so much of it's negative and so much of it's whatever and unbelievable. And there's so much like hoaxes and just different things going on that it's like you don't even know what to believe. So I think that's kind of why we're in that position right now, where it's like people are talking like for real, like legit people in positions of like from being intelligence officers and in positions like that, where they're talking about aliens and UAP sightings and all these different things, and nobody cares. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Is it that nobody cares, or people are like, yeah, we know, like, like people have been saying it for a while, and it's just like, they're like, yeah, it's just another thing. We just already seen it and know about it, and people just don't care. Because a lot more people believe that there is aliens out there than anything else. Like, people have more faith in aliens than they do God. and the creation of the world and stuff. So just from my conversations with people.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I think I agree with Josiah as well. I mean, our government has said that there's aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically they didn't use that terminology, but our government is admitting it. And I mean,
word.
It does kind of feel like to me that, like you have those frogs in the hot water, and like it's like you're just boiling it a little bit at a time just to get the temperature up, right? Or as pastors do with their countdown music, they start increasing the countdown music before the service starts to get people acclimated to the louder sound. It's like kind of feels like our government is doing that, and not just our government. It's like all the governments are kind of acknowledging something. So then I'm like, I almost feel like it's like kind of like Josiah said. I think people just kind of accept that there's something that we don't know about. That's out there.
Right. Yeah, for
Now,
sure.
what
Yeah,
is it? That's the
Justin
question.
Withy agrees with you guys. He says because we already knew that. So
See,
yeah,
Justin
Yeah.
Withy, no relation to me. My name is Josh Wypij, not
pretty
Withy.
close.
But my brother's name is Justin, so it is weird.
Yeah, when I saw it popped up, I was like, something's happening here.
It's like Justin's fake account.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not him. But I mean, the truth about we just don't know what they are. I think that's more of the question. Like, what are they? And I think we should dive into some of that today for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, are you guys familiar with the like David Grush testimony stuff that's been going on lately, where he was a pretty high level intelligence officer, still connected to that world, and sharing about not even personal experiences, but information that he's received. He's essentially, they're calling him a whistleblower, right? Like talking about all these,
Congress.
high level authorities and officials within intelligence, the intelligence community, that have been telling him about these things and about how they have all these recovered alien crafts and they have the deceased alien pilots and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know, to me, that's all still kind of like sketchy because number one, it's not firsthand information. It's coming from somebody who seems to be a good sort, like somebody who seems to be, for all intents and purposes, a reliable source of information for this. And the fact that it's at the point where it is, where it's in Congress and these conversations that are taking place. But I don't know, that part of this, like to me, is still very, very sketchy for a few different reasons. But I mean, what are you guys think? Where are you guys at with all this stuff about the kind of the more recent information that's been coming to light?
Yeah, I saw that his information, like, it wasn't so much that he was whistleblowing, but that he got the clearance to share some of the information and clearance not to share other information like Roswell and things like that. It's hard because there's, for me, I'm like, okay, what's a UFO? It's unidentified flying object. That could be something that's just in the air that I don't know.
A balloon.
Yeah, that's, it's what is it? It could be anything. It could be some sort of drone. It could be whatever. But with what he is saying, it's nothing surprising, I guess, in what he is saying in terms of that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by anything, and I'm not surprised that there's people that don't. I think we all know plenty enough people that are like, it doesn't exist, it's not real, it's all fake, and that's fine. I don't mind if anybody feels that way, but I do have a story. Can I share my story now?
I want to hear your story.
Dude. All right.
Tell us what the aliens did to you, Josh Whipper.
This is it. 20 years ago, no, more than 20. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. I was like 16, 17 years old. This is around 2000, the year 2000. And it's a hot summer night. 2000. I don't know if just I know.
That was a deep cut. That was a deep cut for some people, but just keep going.
So it's a hot summer night. We're poor, so we don't have AC, and the window's open, and I'm like, I got a fan going on me 24/7. Like, it's just blowing on me like at 100. And I'm like laying there trying to get some sleep. It's hot, so I'm having a hard time. And I'm just looking out the window. My bed was right next to a window. And I'm like looking out the window and I'm just kind of looking over, which would be the eastern sky. And as I'm looking there, all of a sudden, I see like what looks to be like a spotlight that's going like this. It's just the spotlight's going back and forth, sweeping back and forth, and it's coming closer to me. As I'm like, okay, that's weird. Maybe it's a helicopter, right? So I go and I turn the fan off, and I don't hear a helicopter. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's coming close to my house.
Mhm.
Like this thing is heading right towards me, and it probably was just a few minutes, but it felt like eternity to wait for this thing. And as I'm laying there, my heart starts beating out of my chest because I don't hear any sound. And this thing is now, I can see it. Like, just imagine it's pitch dark and you're seeing a spotlight just highlighting things in your yard, like the trees in your yard and the landscape of your yard. And then it comes over. There's a porch right behind, like a deck with a hot tub on it, right by my window. And I guess we weren't that poor. We had a hot tub, but we didn't have AC. So the light like just like went right over the hot tub, and I jump up out of my bed and I run because it's coming from the east. It's going to the west. And I jump up and run to the front of my house where I could see it going. And it's still over my house going like this. And then it shoots off like boom, like gone. Like, where did that thing go? And my heart is just pounding. I run upstairs. I'm 16, 17 years old. I run upstairs and I wake my parents up. I tell them everything. They're like, shut up, go to sleep. You don't know what it was. It was probably a helicopter. You're an idiot. And I, as a 16-year-old boy, I slept at the foot of my parents' bed because I was, or 17. I was so like, I still don't know what it was. I have no idea. But it felt as if what it felt like is when that light came over, it saw me in the window. And I just, the feeling of not knowing what that was and it not having sound and to be able to shoot off like gone was the most petrifying thing I think I've ever experienced in my life. I've had that one I can't explain. I don't know. I guess you could say some people could listen to that and say, well, there's probably government. And it could be because it was on a government flight. That is a flight path where we do have government like aircraft that would go over from time to time. But from what I've understood, there's a lot, it could be a lot of things. So I'm out, and this is out just so people know, we live out in the boondocks. Like I live, this is not like a suburban setting. This is straight up like rural. You cannot see my neighbor's house from my parents' house. You can't.
Wasn't that the same 2000? You telling me the same year you gave up shrooms too?
Well, I mean,
that was my next question.
no, I was in a Christian punk rock band called The Rejects with an X at the end that looked like a cross. That's
it was just an X, not 3 X's with a 7-7.
Yeah.
I have a similar
777.
story actually to that. Not as similar, but like when I had to been 16, 17, same age. I was at my friend AJ's house, also live in the boondocks, like around farms. He lived on a farm, a lot of land, and we're just laying in bed. You know, he lived like 2 miles down the road from me, and we were just hanging out. And it was like 3 a.m. and all of a sudden we're just laying there. We're watching TV. I don't know what we're watching. And all of a sudden we're laying there, and in this room, and remember there's like 2 windows on the end of the bed and then 2 on the right side of the bed. And all of a sudden you look out the windows and there's just green light just burst into all the windows. Like it was like somebody took a flash of green light and just filled the room. And then it was like probably like 2 seconds, which is a long time. And then just went away. And AJ and I are like the only ones that were like remember this. And I actually texted him before and told him I was going to tell this story. But also in the boondocks, and before that, we still don't know what it is. We tried Googling it. We said like, hey, over farms and stuff, sometimes farms have like these lights that they do at night and stuff for like preserve it and stuff, but like we couldn't figure out anything that would explain it with how like with how bright it was. Like you couldn't see anything besides green light. It's nuts. Who knows?
Who knows?
That's nuts.
Crazy. But you don't have anything like that, Duke? Nothing? You've never like
Not-
looked up in the sky and saw like, I can remember one time I was with all my buddies, Jamie Gorman, all those dudes, and we're up in Keuka Lake at his parents' little cottage. We're all sitting out having a bonfire, looking up at the sky. Now, we were talking about aliens, right? But what I've heard from every single person about UFOs, anybody that's an expert, quote unquote, they always say, obviously, if you see a blinking light or if you see a certain, it's probably an airplane. 9 out of 10 times, the airplane could be
Or satellite.
A satellite, yeah, or a UFO satellite. But they tell you that all the time. But they say what the main thing is if it goes and changes a direction, like at the like that, or shoots off fast. Those are the ones that are not normal. And we're sitting there at Keuka Lake. We're sitting up there at the sky, and literally we were like, what? That one's pretty interesting. And it took a weird turn and shot off. It was like, oh my goodness. I don't know what to do with that one either, but it didn't hit me as hard as that one I saw by myself, you know?
Yeah, because that was further away than the other one. The other one, you're kind of, so I mean, you two could actually technically be aliens right now because you both had those experiences that were like right there in your, like in the room. I mean, you don't know what happened in those 2 seconds when that green light flashed through the room. Like that may have been all it took.
Why
they do say like you remember the start and the end, and you just forget everything.
That's what I'm saying.
But the
and
time
how do all these people know they got probed? And why is there all this probing going on? I just don't understand. Like, why?
What is wrong with these aliens? Who hurt you, alien? Why are you doing this?
They need deliverance.
They need deliverance. See, that's the part about the alien abduction stories, like the actual abduction stories that I just like, I don't buy into because to me, it makes no sense. So like when I was a kid, I was super obsessed with this stuff. And unfortunately, I don't have a story like that I can recall. And I wanted it so bad. Like I was always, I mean, I would go out looking for aliens. Like I'd go out looking for this stuff. I was so into the unsolved mysteries. No,
please.
I'll be your next victim.
You can do whatever you want. It's like
an altar called the
aliens. Like an altar called the aliens.
I even dressed as a cow. It was like,
oh my gosh. I was not trying to get probed. However, I was super into it. Like I was super into the alien lore and all that kind of, like I was always watching those shows and all that kind of stuff about the alien sightings. And but the thing about the abductions that doesn't really make sense to me is that these beings, these extraterrestrial beings, right? Like if they're here and they're arriving in ships, first of all, why are all these ships crashing? Because they've got this technology that's getting them here from supposedly, see, like when I was a kid, it was kind of the idea of, well, maybe they're coming from the moon or maybe they're coming from Mars. But like, I don't think anybody believes that these things could be coming from our own solar system at this point. They're like talking about like light years. You know what I'm saying? Like millions, maybe light years away, like that these things could be coming from. So if they're arriving here, it's like their technology is at an absurd level that we couldn't possibly understand. And yet they're coming here with like these kind of primitive tools and probing people, like for what? Like what is the and why are they crashing? Like why is it that once it's like Earth's atmosphere is worse than all of the vacuum of space and everything else that they have to go through to get here? As soon as they hit our atmosphere, it's like they can't hold up.
Yeah, but but that's the thing. Like, how many crashes are there, right? Like how many are there? And then it makes you think, okay, how many crashes are there in cars? Right? We have all these great cars with great technology that are all over the place, and we still have accidents. Just my question is, don't the if these accidents are real, obviously we're just having fun, people. We're not. I don't know how much I believe in any of this, but if those things are real and they're crashing, that would just tell me that they're here a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
But is it like what's alien, right? And especially in the US.
What does alien mean?
Like, is
Not
it
from
is
this
it
planet.
actually like Or is it somebody from a different country that's like has some technology that they're trying to fly through and it's crashing and they're just not saying that, you know?
That could be.
They're not describing them fully, these things. Like, oh, they have slimy skin and big eyes and you know, the typical Roswell look of what we think would be an alien.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, something else that I heard recently too is that a lot of the stories where people have claimed to actually see aliens, they differ depending on what country you're in, like what part of the world you're in. Like people in America, and most of them happen in America. Like, let's be honest, like most of the abduction stories come from Americans, but it's always like the same kind of thing, like the big eyes, like the typical kind of little green men or gray men or whatever it is. Like it's kind of described that way, but I've heard this. I haven't really looked a whole lot into this. I've heard this, that like in other countries, like if you kind of go in like the Nordic area of the world, it's like a lot of those people, they see something totally different. They usually, when they have an alien story, it'll be, somebody real tall with like white hair, blonde hair. Like it's a completely different look of an alien. And those stories kind of tend to line up based on where you are in the world. So it seems almost like there's like a cultural sort of implication. Now, I'm sure that's not 100% across the board, but that's just something that was noticed as they were kind of comparing the different sightings across the board, like around the country. So to me, that would kind of lend to, I don't know how you describe that, but it seems
well. So I'm looking that up because I just heard something about that recently, and you're right, a lot of it is, but some people say it's based on the hemispheres as well. I don't know. It's hard to say, but a lot of people also say that it could be population. They're going to the heaviest parts of population as well. I'm just saying if it's real. But then again, some people could just say, well, as Americans, we literally are that spoiled and have, do you know what I'm saying? Like we're that spoiled where we don't have to worry about life's problems that we're looking for, aliens in the sky.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like maybe it's a sign of how incredibly blessed we are and spoiled.
Right.
Because if you look up map of alien or map of UFOs, United States the main ones are the United States and the UK. And then what's interesting is like parts of South America and pretty heavy at the bottom of Australia, but then in the rest of the world it's very few. But then also when people say that, they're like, look, it's only in America, it's only in Western civilizations. Well, do you think that Chinese people are really able to say that they've seen an alien? You're not going to see a single one of any of those sightings on a map. That's never going to happen.
No,
not in a communist nation. There's no way. So
right.
I'd like to know. Maybe we should ask some of our global workers who are in Asia if they know of any of
the surrounding areas.
Like ask the people in your village. I'd love to know. I'd love to hear if that's true or not. India is pretty hot too, so
yeah, that's true. So well, let's just do this. Where are you guys with the whole thing? Do you believe, just as just like from a personal standpoint, do you think there are aliens? Okay, let me back up because this is two different questions.
Well, I think you might want to define what alien means.
Do you think there are extraterrestrial beings? First of all, do you think they exist? And second of all, do you think they're here, or they've been here?
Would angels be in that mix?
So I think that
because they're not from this earth and they're not human,
right? Well, I think we would all agree that we all believe in angels, right? Mm-hmm. We all believe in demons. I think now this is one of the theories of what this is. There's a lot of people that would say that yes, the aliens are real, but they're actually demons. So that's one of the theories out there. Now, let me just. Now, I'm not really. I'm not saying whether or not I believe that or not, but it's something I've been hearing quite a bit lately. So think about an alien abduction story, right? Just for a second, like let's just think about an alien abduction story. It usually happens where somebody's like out in the desert in a car. Maybe they're in their room. It usually happens at night, right? Most of the stories that we've heard anyway, I think they usually happen at night. They usually happen when people are like alone. And so all right, people tell, this is kind of a general story. Somebody's in their car and things start going crazy in the car, the instruments, the car shuts down, whatever. Then all of a sudden there's a tractor beam or, whatever. There's a beam of light. The spotlight that Josh Wypij saw in the year 2000.
I'm not like you. I didn't want to get probed.
And why he slept within his parents' bed for the rest of his high school years.
I'm still there.
He's still there. Yeah. It's tough raising a family, but I just, so but kind of like it pulls them through the roof of the car. And then they have this, whatever experience it is, they're being probed or whatever's actually going on there. And then they end up back where they started, right? Essentially. Like it kind of happens that way. That's generally all what you hear. Yeah. If you think about it, I mean, because you could think about it just real quick. Let me just put this point out there real fast. Like you could if you think about it more as an out of body experience, not of them physically being beamed up, but like a spiritual, kind of experience where something freaky is going on. And maybe it's like more possession? I don't know about a possession, but some kind of a demonic
attack,
something. Now and again, I'm not putting my 2 cents in on this yet, but I'm saying it's something that I've heard people say, particularly, in the Christian side, when they try to say like, if that's real, we could maybe more easily explain this as some kind of a demonic encounter. As opposed to, aliens from another planet coming and, beaming you up into their spaceship, doing tests on you and putting you back, in your bed or in your car or, in the shower or whatever it is.
Yeah. Could it be both?
Anything could be both. I think a lot of this stuff is probably like, maybe there's a little bit of everything going on. I don't know.
There's obviously, I think, if we're talking about creation in general, things created by God, and then if you're believing that, then I would believe that whatever is out there would be either created by God or something that's been tainted with in a way. And I've had demonic encounters. I've seen demons cast out of people. I've had a personal one when I was on a mission trip where sleep paralysis, and there's no denying that was a demon crawling up on me, and had to break out of that by saying Jesus' name. And that could have been an alien, because it was very clearly like I could see this is a freaking demon like trying to probe me in a way. Or possess me or oppress me, whatever it looks like, whatever it was trying to do. And in a way, you ever watched Doctor Strange? You probably have, because you're wearing that Marvel shirt. Like there's like the astral plane, and
exactly.
There is the reality that we need to believe that there is the stepping into the spirit realm, astral plane, whatever you want to call it. There is that connectedness to it, and I think that I believe that there is demonic stuff happening, and then there's the other side. It's not like I'm not like in this dualistic mindset like things are bad and things are good, but there is that spiritual battle happening, and whatever you focus on could affect that, and mentally make you think you are being lifted up through a car or your house or whatever it is. But what's the point of them taking you? Is it to take over your body, or is it for them to just find out more information about us and how we function and work?
Well, let me tell you what I've heard. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
Well, I just look. You asked what I thought. I have a lot of thoughts on it, and I'll give you some of the main ones that I think it could be. For starters, I think one of them that is pretty. I think that this might be one of the ideas that is growing in popularity. But if anybody knows anything about the Nephilim or the Nephilim, however you say it, It's this to make it as simple as possible. It's this idea that comes out of Genesis 6, where it says that the sons of God came and were basically tempted by these women and slept with the daughters of man or whatever. And there's a lot of scholars out there that say that is like an angelic rebellion of sorts, that they came and tried to, because of that Satan, that adversary spirit, they're trying to destroy the perfect thing that God created. So how better to do that than through the bloodlines? And this would explain why we see giants throughout the Bible. I mean, like, forget about aliens for just 1 second. In the Bible, we believe that there were giants, right?
Correct.
So I don't think it's like when people say you shouldn't believe in that stuff. Well, you believe in giants, so leave me alone because it's in the Bible. Like, so I do think that there's a possibility that those giants could have been like what Josiah was saying was a perversion of God's creation, and because of that, many have been led to say they had an antichrist spirit to them. Like there was no redemption even possible in these creatures that were half man and half angel, from this fallen thing that happened back in the book of Genesis, which would explain why there's so much genocide in the Bible, which would explain the flood, which would explain all that. However, the problem is we still see giants in the Old Testament even after the flood. Right. And there's ultimately other things that we can't explain, but show that there was somebody with a higher knowledge, a higher knowing of things, which would explain how the pyramids were built, Stonehenge, things like that. What we still don't understand how they had the technology to do so. And all the gods that the Egyptians worshipped, all the gods in the Old Testament could have been literal demon principalities, whatever you want to call them, and they are worshiping that because that is their heritage. Do not, like the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Amalekites. Like, so I hopefully I'm not losing anybody here. I'm just trying to make it really quick. So I think it's a very good, strong possibility that these quote unquote aliens that we see are actually either part of that Nephilim, maybe dismembered Nephilim. It could be just demons in general. It could be these principalities, these things that we cannot see, but they have found a way to try to come. Now, when we look at let's just bring it to the New Testament, and we're thinking about do not be deceived, right? In the last days, many will be deceived. And we talk of the mark of the beast, which everybody thought was the COVID shot. It's not the COVID shot, because the mark of the beast has to say there is no God. That's what the mark of the beast is, where they do not believe that there is a creator. They do not believe that there is a God. That is actually this Antichrist. So if aliens were to come, what's the first thing that they would say, in my opinion, if they say this? They say there is no God. We created it. We have the higher knowledge. We can show you where you all came from. We made you, whatever it is. I'm going to say, flipping demons, I ain't bowing down. I ain't doing it. So that's what my first thing is. I think that they could be deception. I'm going to be very careful if that shows up. And people are like, they'll never show up. Well, the government, like you just said, admitted that there's aliens, or admitted that there's something we don't know of. So I don't know if I buy all that either. So that's one possible thing. The other option I have is that maybe it is angels. Maybe it's a good thing. A lot of people say that ever since we started having the capability of nuclear bombs and things like that to destroy our planet, then these angels and all these things start showing up where all of those things are. Russia and all these areas trying to stop us in the spiritual sense. And that's, why we can't, maybe we're picking them up on camera from fighter jets or something. Who knows? I have no idea, but that's another possibility. Or it's all just made up and we're just, whatever, just stuff.
We're just having fun. Yeah. I'm kind of in the camp of, where I would say the Nephilim, you got God saying like, okay, gotta protect the bloodline. Noah, you're the key person of this bloodline and his family. So if we still have traces of Nephilim, it would be through one of the sons of Noah's wives, most likely. And through that, over time, then you get Goliath, you get the giants that they spied out in the lions, all would have been from Nephilim. And people try to justify it with being like, it's the sons of God were actually just the sons of Seth, and it's just more of a really mighty, strong men that were created by God. And I don't buy it. I don't see proof of that in the Bible at all. But my eschatology is a little different. I don't fully believe that the mark of the beast is something that's coming, but something that was done before. So with that, I'm not huge on that, but I'm not a rapture guy at all. And I don't know if you've seen this meme going around said, if you see a bunch of people going away, just know it wasn't aliens, that kind of thing. And, the Christian ants of the world are posting that. So, so I'm not in that camp where it's like, this is all leading to end time stuff, but I am in the camp of these. It could be spirits of the Nephilim, still lingering and causing mayhem in ways and confusion. I think the devil is about confusion. I think he has no other power besides trying to manipulate and confuse God's people. And I think that has work into it as well. And that I'm more in the camp that the demons of the world are spirits of the Nephilim. When you look at, Legion, who was many, one demons aren't omnipresent. They can only possess somebody at one time or wherever, be somewhere probing people at one time. Or all in one place at one time. Like I believe they were in the guy who was in the cave and he called himself Legion, for we are many. I think it was many spirits of the Nephilim that were attacking him, because I think God was trying to wipe out the distorted creation that he had in that way. And so I do believe that there is lingering effects of that today from those giants and Nephilim of old. And that could be the aliens that we are encountering today.
I love that we don't. We didn't get into this on the podcast. I was with you on Josiah and yours, but like even difference
coming
in
out in a couple weeks.
Yeah. The difference in eschatology, you kind of mentioned that, or maybe that was in a private conversation. But I actually appreciate the fact that we may differentiate on some of this stuff. But I just think, obviously. One of my closest friends, which I'll keep his name out of this so he doesn't get mad at me, but he's always concerned that maybe I'm that I'm getting too distracted. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think there is something like you want to be careful that you're not. However, I'm not gonna lie, the more I dive into some of this type of stuff, the more the Bible just becomes so it's just so exciting. It's like, I could go on TikTok or Instagram and just scroll through every reel and get entertained that way. But I love being entertained by some of these are not salvation issues. Obviously, no. I would hate for anybody to say, well, he's not a real pastor because he thinks that's a possible. Well, whatever, dude, don't come to my church. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just in my mind, it's just fun. And that's probably why we have so many people that are interested in it to this day, because there's something about it. They haven't affected us in any negative ways. The only thing aliens have actually done to us in this, if they exist, and we should thank them for this, is give us a lot of great content. Because I just watched Invasion season 2, episode 1 on Apple yesterday for preparation to this, and it was like, whoa. And the thing with that show, it was very good, but the thing with that show, which was really crazy, is that they didn't mean for this to be a storyline at all, but the whole, the governments were saying, we're one government, we're one people, we're here to help you. And when I heard that, I was like, man, I wonder, I was going to deep thought with that. I wonder if all the governments are in on this.
They have the council. They have a huge higher council together. That's just, we gotta,
because they know, listen, they know as much as we know. I mean, we don't even know what happened to JFK. Like, you know what I mean?
Here's the thing that I've been wrestling with for a long time. I feel like if I became president, which I never will, because holy crap, that's the challenge.
Yeah, you never will.
People, I don't like people hating me. So, I'm
voting for you, Josiah.
Okay, write my name in the ballot.
If there's ever a candidate that does not want to be president, I will vote for that person, because I think wanting to be president automatically makes you the worst person for the job.
Yeah, you're up there like, I don't want this. I'm just somehow got here. And
there's people that said that Trump really didn't want it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. I think he does now, but anyway.
I'm still going from prison. This is not a political podcast, Josh.
No, sorry.
Jeez. Anyways, I feel like you get all this information that's classified and everything. Man, I would not be able to keep that all to myself. Like all of a sudden you find
You're
out,
just tweeting it out.
yeah, I'm just like, guys, guess what I just found out from this meeting we just had? Like I just feel like people should know things, and why is it classified? Why are things like not being talked about? I just don't get it. Maybe the human race isn't ready for that kind of stuff, and anarchy will happen. They think they have the best interest, but I don't know. Who knows? Who cares?
What would be the? I mean, that's one idea of why they don't want to tell us. But could there be others?
Could be. Maybe they have a deal with the aliens already.
Yeah, maybe they. Yeah, maybe they have a deal, or maybe people just like to feel like they're more powerful and they have more information, and they like to keep people in the dark, and they feel like it gives them more control, or maybe it's a chip that they're holding back for that could be played later on, or maybe they just don't, as you said. I mean, you mentioned it's not in the best interest, but it could not even be. It could be that it's not even so much in our best interest. It's not in their best interest right now to let us know that, which is kind of why. I mean, what would be the reason for them to declassify certain things now? And if it's not real, what would be the reason for them to be telling us these things? Like, go back to the David Grush and the congressional hearings and all of that. Like, what would be the reason for them making it up? I mean, is it unless? I mean, the only thing, and this is just this is a bit cynical, a bit of a cynical approach to sell a book. But I mean, a bit of a cynical approach is like, well, it's this is to like putting this information out there because there's something else going on that they really don't want us to be aware of, or something like that. I mean, that's kind of like the
release the aliens
conspiracy theory approach. Yeah, like releasing, the murder hornets came out for a little while, back in 2020 or whatever that was. Like the different things that happen, that it's kind of like we need these distractions. And I don't know if I buy into that or not. I don't know why, but I just wonder either way, like what is the reasoning behind them telling us now all of a sudden? But even more so, like if they're telling us something and it's really ultimately not true, like what is the reasoning behind that? And I don't know if I can really wrap my head around that or not. So, but here's you guys said some amazing things, and I have a bunch of questions. But
like we know, like we're the experts. We don't know.
You guys
we listen to Joe Rogan.
I'm an expert BSer.
That's where I get most of my news from. Is Joe Rogan.
You get that? You're a preacher kid. You learned it really good.
Yeah, I learned it really quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pastor Chris, man. I'm just joking.
But all right. If we're talking about aliens,
and somebody's background right now.
Oh, you do hear? You hear my little girl? I'm gonna have to go check check my daughter. She just woke up. If there are, if we're talking about,
she's been up
this
for a while, buddy.
You've been hearing her for a little while.
Oh yeah. I just was like, maybe I don't know. How old is she?
1.
She could be getting abducted right now.
No, she's
by aliens. Of course.
Hey, she's in good hands. She's doing fine.
Good.
But here's the thing. So if we're talking about this theory that we're dealing with angels and or demons, whether it's, as you said, this from the Nephilim or whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. If it's that, why would there be ships? Or are there ships? Or are what we're seeing just,
taken up on a chariot? That could be angel. We could be saying they're ships, but they just modernized their chariots.
They modernize their chariots.
Yeah, but
have you guys seen?
But that's the thing, though, because I think we have a very there's spiritual stuff and then there's physical stuff, and we've separated those two things out where we don't understand that there could be this merging of the two. Like I think all of the church has, like most of the church believes in angels and demons, right? We believe in that stuff. But when it blends in with the natural, the supernatural with the natural, I think that's harder for people to grasp. I think it's harder for me to grasp, but I think that it exists. I mean, it has to. I mean, if you look at like even what in the Old Testament, I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff that was happening,
Yeah.
like in the natural. So
Axes being lifted up out of water, hands showing up and writing things on the walls. Crazy.
The sun stood still
The sun stood.
for
Okay,
Joshua.
here's the thing about the chariot, that in the Tower of Babel and stuff. Everything was like they're trying to reach these things that they knew existed. Not everybody, had the same monotheistic faith,
sure.
but there is, you look at all over the place. Every ancient religion has some sort of flood in their history, some sort of idea, and then you get, like, Josh was saying, you have no explanation for these pyramids besides some sort of like weird knowledge that they might have had from the Nephilim. Let's just say that. And all they could do to explain like Elijah being taken up from a flying saucer could be like he was taken up in a chariot, and it could be a God thing, and then when you see Jesus go have his whole entire transfiguration, that was in a place that was like a real thin area, and so maybe we're seeing these aliens in these thin areas between the spiritual and the natural realm, which the spiritual realm to them would be natural realm to them, wouldn't it? And are we the spiritual realm? This is going in deep thought right now.
Yeah.
I'm going into a philosophy mindset right now. That's overwhelming. But I think, I don't know. I think there's, I don't believe that have you ever read C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy?
I haven't.
No, actually I haven't. I've always wanted to. I've never seen it.
Brilliant and beautiful. But these guys, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, they just, the more I learn about the Nephilim, the any kind of cryptic stuff, the Chimera, like I'm like, these guys knew their deep theology of the Old Testament and religion and Judaism and all that stuff, because everybody talks about Tolkien creating this world. He really didn't create a world just out of thin air. He created it out of like real study and stuff that he believed. But C.S. Lewis, he wrote this space trilogy that takes place on like Mars and Saturn, I think, and it's beautifully written one, but it's all about like God creating these other beings and how things came and corrupted it and stuff, kind of like how our Genesis story is, with the snake coming and corrupting us, trying to give us new knowledge to disobey God, the serpent. And but that's when I read that, like last year, it really started to open my mind to this idea that I believe if there are aliens, it's definitely God created in some way, because that's my faith that he was, beginning of time, before time, and I don't want to think of how he was even created, but I don't know. I think it's all God in some way.
So if there are aliens, like if we were to find out, next week, 6 months from now, whatever, we're to find out definitively that they have these spacecraft and they're somehow able to prove it. I mean, if they come out and they show us an alien, like a dead alien, and they show us a spaceship, like I don't know about you, like I'm still not necessarily just believing that it's actually an extraterrestrial ship or whatever. But I mean, if they're somehow able to prove to us that it is, does that have implications for our faith? Like, what does that change anything about what we believe about God, about the creation of the world, about all this stuff? Does it change anything? Particularly if extraterrestrials are real and they are like higher forms of intelligence than we are, does that affect us at all? Does it affect what followers of Jesus think in terms of, the creation account and the things that we currently, the current state of our faith and our standing on what the Bible says and all of that? Is any of that somehow diminished or hurt.
Well, I
if
think that
it
I
turns out
don't
the
think it
aliens are real.
does. Okay. I think it does. Okay. There's two sides of that. Number one, we know God created other beings, right? Because angels were created. So we know angels were created. So we know that part. So we already know that he will create. Could he have created another planet? And why you would have them connect to our planet, I have no idea. All that I have no ideas for. So is it possible for God to have done that? Yes, I think it's totally possible. However, I also have to ask the question there as it pertains to Jesus, right? And we have the Trinity and Jesus dying for our sins because he had to. Well, I don't know how that works with other. If that was to be true and that they were these other created beings from a different galaxy or whatever, that would be I don't know. That would be challenging for me.
There's nothing for me that changes. God created the heavens and the earth. The word heavens is the universe, right? Like it's more than just like heaven as we know it or the paradise or whatever. Different like levels of heaven. It's space.
So are you saying that the fall, like when the fall happened here on earth, that was throughout the all creation, even other galaxies?
I don't think so. I don't think so personally, because if there are other galaxies, but there are living creatures and living beings in other galaxies, and that's kind of what got me thinking with the C.S. Lewis trilogy was, did God create other beings that started the same way in these other places with two people, creation, story, and something came and tried to corrupt it in its way? Could he have done that? Absolutely. I'm not God. He could have done that. If you look at a painter, he doesn't just paint one picture. He paints multiple pictures. That's not like one hit wonders of the 90s. It's multiple hits that he's created. Could he have created more in his image? Or are we the only ones created in his image and he created other things differently, like he did animals and dinosaurs and things like that?
Sounds like you're talking about that there could be multiverses.
This guy reads way too many comic books.
Because if we're talking about see, this is where we're really limited, guys, because if this was Joe Rogan, we'd all be smoking weed and like we maybe be able to imagine some more things other than so but anyway, this is better. So we're okay. So if
pull that up.
Pull that up, James. If we are talking about angels and demons, because it seems like that's kind of where this is coming back to, right? Like, maybe that's as far as this group of people right here, maybe that the whole alien life form type thing seems to be that, I don't know, maybe we're all kind of in agreement. Correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe it's both, and maybe there are extraterrestrial beings that we either know about or don't know about, and we know for sure that angels and demons exist because we have biblical accounts of that, biblical evidence for that. So if that's what this is, then we're dealing more so, you mentioned the multiverse, we're dealing more so with interdimensional stuff than we are with interstellar or spatial stuff, because we're talking about in angelic realm or a demonic realm or a spirit realm, whatever you want to call it. So do we believe that the realm of the spirit is all around us right now and we just don't see it? So we believe like there could be angels in the room with me, with you right now. There could be demons, walking around or hovering or whatever it is, whatever kind of form or shape they take, however they move around or whatever, like walking through the neighborhood. Like, is that kind of where we're at, that there's like this veil that we don't see beyond, that sometimes, and there are people that have open visions of this stuff and can and have seen into the realm of the spirit. Yeah. So, but it's happening all around us. Is that right?
Of course. Well, like scripturally, like let's look at Daniel, right? Daniel's crying out. He's crying out. He's crying out. And then I think Gabriel shows up, the angel, and he's like, "Oh, I'm paraphrasing, but sorry, I'm late. I was fighting the prince of Greece, and then I have to leave there. I have to leave here to go fight the Prince of Persia. So just like Josiah said earlier, that demons aren't omnipresent. They can't be at multiple places at once. That's why it's awesome to cast them out because they're gone. But with angels, I think, yeah, of course, I think all that stuff's happening. Obviously, that's scriptural.
Yeah.
That was happening then. What's even more, I mean, not to open this up, but just something based on that, which is crazy, is that if it really is a battle, that means that there are some things that God loses at, right? I mean, I believe just like everybody
Versus
else
the
in the
war.
end. Yeah. Like, I mean, obviously people get uncomfortable when I say that, but like, it is not God's desire for children to be aborted. It is not God's desire for people to have cancer. It's not God's that's not his desire, right? So there's casualties in this. But to me, like, because we believe God can do anything, he's all powerful. Totally believe that. 100% believe that. But there's also, we have to come to grips with, there's things happening out in the spiritual realm that we cannot see, that we don't have any understanding of. So yes, to answer your question, 100%, I think that there's got to be stuff happening all around us all the time. Maybe not as much around us as we think, or maybe more.
You think, thinking of multiverse, I thought of this before. You know, like when Paul is in prison and they're praying for him like crazy, and then he comes up to the gate, and the little girl's like, "Oh my gosh, it's Paul. We've been praying for him." Goes back, and they're like, "Oh, it must be his angel." It's like, why would they think it's his angel? Like, she obviously knew what Paul looked like. And then why would they say, oh, it must be his angel? Is there a multiverse version of us that is our angel that kind of looks like us? It's more like better or lower than us. I don't know. But that's just a side thought.
And they thought Jesus was a ghost, right? I don't know what that word would be. But let's also just say, if you're talking about Paul, what did he say? Women, keep your hair long. Guys, don't, that kind of stuff. Wear head coverings, all that. Why? Because of the angels. Yeah. And we read that and go, whatever.
Yeah, just keep going.
I look at it and think that Paul was worried. I don't know. But I think if it is really about angels, he was concerned about them. I think he was worried
because they like their long hair.
I think he was concerned with another angelic rebellion. Personally, I think that's a possibility. Ooh. Again, I hold all of this very loosely. I just need to be clear.
I'm going to lose so much viewership on my podcast just talking about this.
That's what I'm here for, guys.
You know what? Do you think you will?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't even have any viewership, so how can I lose any?
There is some freedom in that.
I don't either, to make you feel better. I have nobody listening to my podcast.
The Inauthentic Life podcast.
Just going back to my story about the green light, I texted my friend AJ, who was there with me, and he's like, he reminded me, he goes, remember it happened twice? And I was like, oh yeah, it happened twice within the same night.
Twice?
Yeah, within 5 minutes of each other. So it was like green light.
He's definitely an alien.
5 minutes later, green light. And he's like, I think about that every day and I still can't figure it out why that happened.
That is weird.
So that's just going back, bringing it full circle to what I talked about in the beginning. But favorite alien movie? What is yours?
E.T.
Really?
I'd say I'm going to go with the classic E.T. because that was the first one that I think I can remember as a child, basically dealing with the concept that could be aliens. And it was with that little, and when he was in the cornfield, in that opening scene there, he's in the cornfield and then
terrifying.
Oh my gosh, dude. I still can't watch that today as an adult. Like, I watched it with my kids. I'm like, hey kids, I gotta go to the bathroom real quick. I really just hid in the bathroom so I didn't have to deal with it.
Really?
Yeah, I hate it. Yep.
Yeah, it triggers you.
I can remember the blanket that I would hide under while watching that. Just,
smelling like pee and everything.
Cornfields,
have you guys seen,
cornfields. What was your favorite?
Did you guys ever see that old Simpsons? I don't know if you guys used to watch The Simpsons or not, but where Mr. Burns was an alien.
Christian, so.
And so the pastor, yeah, I did too, but anyway, the pastor,
I love
Reverend Lovejoy's in church and he's teaching, and all these people are kind of, the alien thing. Different people have seen the aliens. It's in the news. And so they cut to Reverend Lovejoy and he's teaching and he's talking about the story of a man who came from the heavens to give his life and die and to rise again and to ascend back up to heaven and his name was E.T., the extraterrestrial.
It does sound bizarre.
E.T.'s a solid. Yeah, I mean, all of that is, something that we accept by faith.
Yeah.
With evidence to show, evidence of the resurrection and all of that. But it does when you explain it that way.
You know what's really like, okay, what's really weird is the fact that you have all these people in this time acting like, we're going against the pagan stuff. And then all of a sudden you got Jesus coming in and he's like kind of quasi-pagan in a way that and don't people are gonna write me off like crazy later now, but he's saying like drink my blood, eat my flesh, and that was like what the pagans did. They were vampires, that's like how we have the stories of vampires today. And Jesus in a sense was like showing a alternative, better way to to what the pagan people were doing, or people that were against the whole conversation has been weird. And anytime you came into this conversation, it's gonna be a weird part. I just saw that comment.
Text or something scrolling at the bottom that said like, this is what we're talking about. Don't be freaked out.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that things were wild back then, thinking that, and that's why it was so controversial to Judaism, because they're like, we're supposed to be different, and Jesus is kind of acting completely opposite of what we think we're supposed to be. And I don't know why I got on that tangent, but yeah. My favorite movie.
How you got there. All I know is you just said that Jesus was a pagan.
No, I did not say Jesus was a pagan.
First, you said Jesus is an alien or something like that, or maybe that was me. I didn't mean to say that.
But straight up, though, if you think about what is an alien, think about what is an alien. Like angels are aliens. God is technically an alien.
God calls us aliens. You are not of this world. The Bible says you are aliens to this world.
We are aliens. There we go.
We're aliens.
So does our DNA change when we get born again?
Yes, Jesus juke right there, guys. That's what everybody was waiting for. There's Frank. Here you go, Frank. Here you go, Frank. You're an alien.
My favorite alien movie recently. Have you seen Nope?
Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I gotta watch that again.
That creeped me out a little bit. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Ooh. It was scary. The scene, the abduction scene, the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in cinema in that regard. Maybe.
And there's funny parts in that too.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Jordan Peele creating it. I mean all of his movies have funny parts. His horror.
I love that when he first sees the alien, which is not really an alien, but he first sees the alien and he's just like, nope.
Do you know nope means not of planet Earth?
Ooh, I didn't know that. Frank Laporta coming in hot with Independence Day. That's a good one. I mean, the second one was garbage.
I personally love Paul. Have you seen Paul?
I haven't seen it.
Seth Rogen.
How about
what's that one? Is it The Watch or that movie where they're on neighborhood watch and then the aliens come?
Yeah.
That was
Ben
pretty
Stiller. Nah.
Oh yeah.
Watch.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn, I think, and
yeah. What a cast.
I don't like the scary ones though. Then again, I watched Invasion, so
Signs?
What was that? Signs, dude. See, I kind of like that one because that's more of like a thriller, right? Wouldn't that be called more of a thriller? I haven't seen his new one that's on Amazon. I haven't seen that yet, that M. Night Shyamalan thing. But yeah, I like any of them that kind of, I don't know, it's totally entertaining. But I don't like Aliens. You ever see that movie? I've never seen it, but I don't like the idea of it.
The old ones? I mean,
that thing.
Classic.
The thing about it, though, is that original one from like the 70s is still pretty legit.
Yeah.
They did a great job with that back in the day. For being 50 years old, it's pretty legit.
And the reactions to that scene are legit because they didn't tell them it was going to pop out like that with so much blood. They knew something was going to happen, but they didn't realize it was going to be like spraying in their faces, the alien coming out of his stomach.
So let me tell you one of my favorite movies, just period. and it's a movie that a lot of people don't like, and it's not even really about aliens, but they do play with the idea of aliens. It's the movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. So they play with the idea of us being the aliens from the future, and essentially time traveling to, you know, rescue humanity from the brink of destruction, and doing it by, you know, essentially like however they do this, these beings in the future that have somehow evolved to be, you know, beings of, you know, more than 3 dimensions, placing a wormhole so that they can travel to these other planets that may or may not be capable of sustaining life, but, you know, at a far distant end of the galaxy that they could never get to with their, you know, with just time wise and and everything, because like I don't know how many light years away, but all that kind of stuff. So it's like to me, I love Christopher Nolan is probably one of my favorite directors for sure. But it's like that movie played with that, but then it also played with this idea of like not just space but different dimensions. And it's something I was thinking about this, not to like get off on. We'll come back to movies in a second. Not to you know get crazy off on this, but I was thinking about this, like talking about like the interdimensional thing of being here, kind of surrounded by this spirit world, and then we have the distant reaches of space, and whether or not space is as big as they tell us that it is. You know, that, you know, whatever. I mean, it's definitely possible that God created that much vastness of space with or without other life, you know, just because he could. But when we start thinking about where is, like physically, where is heaven? When we start thinking about where these things are actually located. So we have, as we already said, like we have this kind of interdimensional coexistence with angels and, excuse me, I muted myself by accident. They exist around us, but we don't see them, right? People, these, you know, theoretical physicists and astrophysicists, they're always kind of playing with these different theories. And there's these theories about how space-time can bend and warp, and there can be connection and travel from one point to another. We don't know how to do that. We don't have any capability of doing that. But anyway, I just had this kind of really weird, like, you know, I'm not on mushrooms, but kind of a mushroom thought. But could there be a connection between like the distant reaches of space and right next to us in terms of the interdimensionality of the spirit realm being in existence all around us? Just a crazy thought. Like, could there be some kind of a connection that we're just unaware of, that we're unable in our human intelligence to interact with? But when God allows it to happen, we're able to, you know, kind of see into that world.
Do you think it's almost like prophetically speaking, even like being able to know, to see in part prophetically is almost like a mirror into the future based upon light travel?
That's very interesting.
Well, all this makes me wonder if another possibility could be what you just said is, could it just be something from the future that we're seeing? I don't know. This opens up so many different cans of worms, because like there's people who say that Sasquatch, not to go totally blurry creatures here, but there's people who say that he could be like a shapeshifter. He could be going in and out of different dimensions with different portals. And I mean, hey, we're just having fun here, so let's just open it up. I mean, there's talks of an inner Earth, a hollowed Earth. There's talks of all this stuff about our own planet
Flat
that we
Earth?
don't know.
Huh?
There's talk Middle Earth. Do you know this whole thing about hollowed Earth? Does anybody know about that?
I haven't heard of it.
I've seen some movies about it.
Well, so there's people who in this, some people blend this in with aliens, so I guess it works. There are people
Godzilla.
who believe...
Didn't the newest Godzilla movie deal with Hollow Earth? Like that's where he lived?
Yeah, maybe. I haven't seen it. But
Anyway,
so it's this belief that in like this is where the Garden of Eden is. A lot of people think that there is a Earth within our Earth, and there are different portals to be able to get into this Earth. For example, they believe that Antarctica, the two poles, they believe Antarctica and the North Pole are one of the two entrances into this area. However, because there's a lot of
Santa
like,
lives.
yeah, I don't know. And there could be, so there's like, this goes back hundreds of years of explorers who have made these claims. But what's really interesting is if you go to Google Maps right now, you cannot look at the North Pole. It's blurred out. You cannot look at the Antarctica. You can't. There's certain areas that are blacked out that you cannot see. Now, what's more interesting, if that's all true, is if that is some kind of entrance and that they don't want us to go into. That could be one. And another, like maybe there's some kind of agreement, but there's all these people there. They say that there's caves and caverns that bring us down. The Earth's crust, we're not even sure exactly how deep it is. So basically you'd have this and then it goes in. So there's like a hollowed earth, like they're living on the upside down from us. And that is a legit, like people are legit claiming that. Now, to me, it's more fun, like, yeah, hollowed earth or whatever, but it's more fun to talk about. But if, nothing is impossible that could be happening. I believe that God came down as a man and lived what I mean? Like, I believe crazy things. So I do believe there's possibilities. I mean, I do want to just say this. So anybody listening who's like, oh, they're all messed up. I mean, this is not my theology. This is just fun. So I want to preface that again.
Same. And I don't believe Jesus was a pagan.
Yes. And I don't.
Very clear. I said that they thought he was a penguin. Penguin. They thought he was a penguin.
He's a penguin. Probably not a penguin either. And I also don't believe he was an extraterrestrial in terms of the way that we define extraterrestrial.
Right. Look at my wings. Look at my wings. Put your finger in the holes of my wings. Penguin? I went off the penguin thing. I'm sorry.
How would you crucify a penguin? Oh, that's terrible.
Jesus was a penguin. End quote.
We need to stop.
End quote. Josiah Ball.
No, God, that just went downhill. But somebody should talk to Elon about Hollow Earth because it seems way easier to colonize Hollow Earth than Mars. If it were real, we could have a whole nother, Earth.
Right.
I don't think that that's real, but
no.
I mean, but who knows?
And then again, like when we're sitting here talking about, like nobody even knows how big the universe, like space is. Nobody knows. We don't know the end of that. That to me is just mind blowing.
But the ocean, as well. We don't know anything in the ocean.
Yeah.
Are the aliens in the ocean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think that's kind of part of it. I mean, well, I just heard somebody else talking about this recently when we put somebody on the moon. That was the most amazing thing that could have ever happened ever. Like the whole nation went wild, right? The world, it changed the world. But now we don't hear anything. Like nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like if you said we're going to go put somebody on Mars, nobody would care. Like, okay, maybe it'll hit headlines, but you probably heard more about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard than you would about of that anyway. That's where I'm at.
It's kind of become a joke. People were like, yeah, that could probably happen.
But we don't we lost our host. I think he's going to take care of his kid.
Probably.
But at the same time, Josiah, think of this. Like, we had to have some billionaire dude come up with the equivalent of a toaster oven in the ocean with a PlayStation controller to try to explore what's under there. And our own government just doesn't even care. That, to me, is just very bizarre. That we have, but then, okay, let's flip it on to the other side. Yeah, we don't care, but the one but the one non-politician president who became president started Space Force in his first 4 years. Like, to me, it's like, okay, does he know something? Because he's like, yo, we need to protect our skies. We need to protect our space. This is a big deal. That's
what I was saying. If I were president, I would be a loose cannon. I'd be like, yo.
It would be bad.
It would be so bad.
They're all out there. Hell, you would be like, okay,
you have no idea how much we need a Space Force right now, guys. Right. Can't believe nobody else thought of this. Where were you, Kennedy?
Have you heard, though, like all these people are going out and saying, like, the president really doesn't know that much. Like, they withheld a ton of information from Trump, and obviously we know why. You know, he's like, "Is this
There's a lot of good
classified? I
reasons.
could have classified this. I don't need to classify aliens. I could have
did-
classified it.
So did we go to the moon?
I could have declassified that information,
Have you
Duke."
seen? Have you seen 2001 Space Odyssey?
Space Odyssey?
Yeah.
I haven't
came out
seen
the
it.
year before the moon landing, and very similar footage of both of those.
Right.
So
I want to know who was taking the pictures of the thing landing.
Yeah.
they
That's
had
what I
a
wanna know.
satellite up. They had a rover up there before them, didn't they?
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
Yeah.
I think they did. I think they did.
I'm gonna
mean,
go and say they did.
You're gonna say they didn't?
I said they did. I read this.
Oh, they
book
did.
Called "The Last Supper on the Moon." Have you heard of this, Levi Lusko?
I've heard of
It's
Levi Lusko.
incredible. Yeah, he's a pastor, and it's just incredible because he goes into detail about the landing of the moon. He's a pastor and wherever, and the timing of it, the science behind it. But he relates it to the gospel and stuff and the Last Supper because apparently not Buzz Aldrin, but the other dude. Oh no, Buzz Aldrin, not Lance Armstrong or Lance, whatever his name is.
I don't think
Neil
Lance
Armstrong.
Armstrong went to the moon.
Neil Armstrong, the other guy,
The brother.
He rode his bike to the moon.
brother of it. Yeah,
Like E.T.
one testicle later.
Hey, if you have
Live
enough, if you have
strong.
enough steroids, you could do anything.
You guys still have your Live Strong bracelets?
Scott does.
No.
Michael Scott
Have
got
you-
that.
have
He
you
got
seen-
that yellow piece of paper and he put it over his wrist.
Yeah. Have you seen the Tosh and his stand up where he's talking about the bracelets? He said he was in a movie theater and this kid was talking in front of him, being obnoxious. He just leans over and goes, "Hey, can you please keep it down?" And the guy turns around and goes, "Hey, mind your own business." He goes, "So I look down and I see my Live Strong bracelet on one side of my hand and my WWJD bracelet on the other. And so what I did and I thought was, I'm gonna cast this guy to hell." It's just like he just goes, and he goes, and the guy just blew up in flames. And he goes, "You know what this means? The bracelets are working. The bracelets are working." I just
Tosh is
butchered
an
that.
alien.
I butchered that.
Yeah,
Anyways.
stick to your day job.
I know.
Maybe Tosh is an alien. You never know. It could be. It
Have
could
you
be.
guys watched
There's a few
Secret
people.
Invasion
Seen what?
on the new Marvel show, Secret Invasion?
I haven't seen
Yeah.
it yet.
I haven't finished it though.
Oh, it's so good. Abduction just to replace us because they're looking for a new home.
Whoa.
Crazy.
So no coming back, just
Yeah.
abducted and taken somewhere else
Yeah.
or killed.
But they're knowledgeable of it. No, they weren't killed. Not all of them are killed.
Interesting.
Some of them were abducting. Okay, doppelgangers.
Mhm.
You know, there's doppelgangers like, wow, that guy looks just like that person or whatever.
Mhm.
Crazy. But that's, I don't know. I don't want.
That's why you have tattoos
so I
to
can be
protect
ident-
you from. Yeah.
There was a
That's
show.
that
Abducted.
could be the mark of the beast right there. Like, hey, get this so you know you're you.
Mm.
I don't believe that.
Did you guys ever see that show? It's called The Event, and I think it only did one season. So clearly, wasn't that? I thought it was
quite
great.
the event.
I was annoyed that it only, that it didn't get renewed. But it was kind of that concept of aliens from another, obviously from another planet, that had come to Earth, and they'd been on Earth for like a long time. Like I want to say since World War II, maybe even before that, they'd been on Earth for a long time and just kind of living as humans and getting, involved in different areas of government and different areas of, whatever. And they live for very long time. Like they don't live 80 years. They can be, I don't even know how many years old they can be. But so in their time on Earth, they've been on Earth for a long time, kind of learning the ways and all that. And they had infiltrated all these different areas of society. And eventually the goal was, which is, what you start seeing in the event, is like them essentially bringing all their people I think it was like a some kind of transfer portal or something they were trying to do. I forget, but like bringing their people to Earth and essentially taking over, because it was the same thing. Like they needed a new home. It's like that idea is kind of fascinating. At least
it is. All these things are fascinating to me. It's just after it's just sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I just want to know. I want to know stuff. I want to know what's going on. But then again, maybe I don't.
I'm okay with the wonder.
Yeah.
I still would like to know what those green lights were. But I'm okay.
Do you want it to have been aliens, Josiah? Like, would you be more happy if you found out that it was aliens, or if you found out that it was
That's good.
A Chinese weather balloon?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Probably not Chinese weather balloon.
I would be, if I found out it was aliens. I would be. I don't know if I'd be relieved or like more terrified. Like, what were they doing over there? Crop circles kind of stuff. Like, do they just have fun with that?
Would you go sleep in your parents' bedroom?
I did sleep in my parents' bedroom for a long time.
Yes. After that?
No, it was before that. No, it might have been
unrelated.
That was because of a horror film I saw. No, it was because of it was night terrors. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like people see. Like, oh, there's something in my closet. There's something in my window. Kids see. I think that's legit stuff. Like little kid, like they want little kids. These
and then as you get older,
young.
I think kids can see a lot more than we can, because we have so much baggage that keeps us from even like supernatural stuff from the Lord. I feel like my children are a little bit more keen on that sometimes than I am.
For sure. Yeah.
But because
they come from the supernatural. Like, I mean, they literally like it's supernatural for a kid to even be made. Like if you think about the processes of it, it's like they literally come. Your spirit, you're being created. The physical is being created, and the spirit's being created all at one time within a female. Like it's all supernatural. So of course they're going to be keen to that, and it's almost like when you become an adult, it's the whole Santa thing. You lose the magic. You don't hear the bells anymore. It's like that unless you like tap into that childlike faith. Man, I am about to preach now. Like you're like that is you need like people. That's why people are so in denial of the charismatics and the spiritual stuff, because I think they're trying to justify and make everything so practical that they forget about the spiritual side of it. They grow up too fast.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. In fact, that just reminds me, I want to answer the same question he did, but I want to tell you this funny thing real quick. My friend Brian Miller, his son, I think his son's like, 7, 8 years old, and his son's really big into Cut the Rope. You know that game, the Cut the Rope game? And I guess there was one of those at a bowling alley or something that he was going to go to for a friend's birthday party, and he was telling his dad he's going to do it. Well, his dad spent that like literally 20 or 30 minutes showing him YouTube videos about how the whole thing's rigged and you can't win off of it. It's so stupid. You can't win. It's like like a carnival game. It's rigged. And his son Henry, he's like, "No, Dad, I know it's going to work." Well, he goes to that stinking bowling alley, and guess what? He wins a PlayStation 5.
What?
Off of that game. Yeah. And his wife sends him the picture, and his first thought is like, "Oh man, now I'm never going to be able to convince this kid that these things are rigged, because he just won."
Right.
There's something to that, what you were saying. It's like these kids got this faith, man. Like they got faith for the most ridiculous of things. Like when my child went out and tried to build a trap for the bunnies outside, like she literally had like a piece of stick. Like they have so much more faith. And I think Jesus saw that. Let the children come to me. Like they don't have all the baggage you all do. They don't have any of that.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Kids climbing trees, and all of a sudden they fall and break their arm. They begin to become afraid that that's going to happen again. They get hurt. And they're not taught like, hey, keep it up. I just saw this is gonna ruin like my podcast for next week, but I do movie reviews right now. I just saw Gran Turismo last night, and in the previews, if you saw that, if you know anything about the story of this kid, Gran Turismo, it's a kid that played Gran Turismo video game and he became an actual race car driver. He gets in an accident and he has this fear in him, and the guy says his trainer says, if you don't get back on the track, you're never going to race again. He said, he goes, the crash doesn't define how you're going to live the rest of your life, but how you respond to that crash will. He goes, and you need to finish your lap. And it just was like, it was like the preaching moment of the whole movie. But I think that things happen in our lives that cause us to stop the wonder, stop engaging with God, because if you're hurt personally, spiritually, physically, whatever it is, we stop going after those things that God wants to bring out of us. And that's why he says, have childlike faith. Remember where you came from.
Absolutely. Yeah, that childlikeness is really like the key that Jesus gives to unlocking life in the kingdom. It's entering the kingdom of God, or receiving the kingdom of God as a little child is the way to enter it. And it's that, we get so jaded and we grow up and we get so focused on so many things, and a lot of it becomes about survival, and then a lot of it becomes about providing for a family and just making it through, and then there's the stuff that happens in life. Tragedy hits, maybe sickness happens, like different things happen, and you kind of lose your focus on the magic of life that you begin life with as a kid. And so being able to live in that place of wonder and just awe of who God is so key. And, whether we're contemplating, aliens or the origins of the universe, or, whatever it is, it's just important to maintain that awe and wonder of God in the midst of it.
But I think what happens is people think that they have to be more mature, right? And they'll take scriptures like 1 Corinthians when Paul says, like, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I understood things as a child, blah, 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 blah. When I became a man, I put away childish things. So, like, part of me thinks that we think, okay, yes, I think it's true. We got to put away childish things. I think he's talking about behavior, childish behavior, childish, like, you ticked me off. Now I'm going to make you feel even worse for it. Stuff like that. However, I don't think that we should lose, like you guys are saying, like we're all saying here, is like there's a difference between childish behavior and a childlike faith. And we're called to have a childlike faith. So it's almost like you need to grow up and act like a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grow up and act maturity. Like a child. Title of
that was a sermon. I had a sermon that had that name, so I stole it.
Wow.
For myself.
It's really good.
Look at
for
that.
Yourself.
Yeah. Childlikeness is maturity.
I'm going to take that one. That's about networking right there.
There you go. That's awesome. I'm cool with that.
Awesome.
So real quick, this Frank Laporta guy, I wonder if he's also, yeah. Anyway, he's been commenting here a lot, and I just wanted to touch on this because I did hear a theory on this. What's going on in Hawaii? I'm just getting back to the States, so I haven't been paying attention. Well, there's fires everywhere, and there's three possibilities where the fires came from. One,
is
they
this
came
South
from
America
us.
thing?
It could be. Do you know? Go ahead. What have you?
I don't know any. No.
Last I checked, Hawaii is not in South America.
No, but there's something going on in South America that's alien.
I was joking. I know you knew that. Okay, South American aliens. Let's go.
No, he's in South America.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Some people say the fires are a distraction for stuff like that, and then some people are saying that the fires were caused by me driving my Dodge Ram to church today. Some people say they think it's global warming, which I think is that's not it. The more likely ones are that, like, an electricity, that the utility lines that were set up, the utility companies there were told that there was a fire hazard for the last 10 years, but they put all their money into green energy instead of trying to upkeep the grid. That's a pretty strong possibility. And then the other possibility that's pretty common is that they're purposeful fires that were set into place for the rich to get this, the prime land, and including our government was in on it. That's a conspiracy theory. And then the craziest one is that some people are saying is that there's laser beams coming from the sky.
I'm all in. I'm all in on that one.
I don't know, but they say there's laser beam and there's literal footage. Have any of you guys seen the footage of the beams?
I want
that are coming out of
sharks
the
with
sky?
laser beams attached to their freaking heads.
Exactly. But some people say that that's government stuff that they're doing, and they're setting these powers like worldwide on purpose. I mean, there's a lot of like crazy theories, so I don't know if
Canada to Hawaii. Now there's did the Hawaii fires cause the, I don't know where it even came from, the hurricane in San Diego, random stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a man-made hurricane?
Mm-hmm.
Is it an alien
weather manipulation?
Butterfly effect?
Who knows? Butterfly effect.
it's all crazy. I don't know if all these things are connected. I have no idea. I think we're going to be. Honestly, the amount of information that we've been receiving, to touch back on what you were talking about earlier, I wouldn't be surprised that in 5 years, a lot of the questions that we have are going to be answered. With the rate of how quick information is being spread, I would also think that, and how many quote unquote whistleblowers are coming out of these different organizations. I don't know. I think that we'll find out some more. Maybe some more clarification things. Maybe we'll look back on it and say, look how stupid this podcast was, Hey. We're all just talking about aliens and really it was just the government. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that would surprise anybody.
No.
To look back and say how stupid this podcast episode was. I kind of have a thought. I think we'll kind of winding down here, right?
Yeah,
sure.
I had a thought. I mean, there's a lot going on. If you listen to a lot of the stuff in terms of theoretical physics and the things that they try to do to try to figure out the origins of the universe and why we're here, it's the existence of the Earth. It's like it amazes me how we're constantly having to go further and further away from Earth to try to find answers. And ultimately, it just seems so very obvious to me that the answer is that there's a creator. Now, whether or not you buy into everything that we buy into in terms of Jesus being the way to salvation and all of that, it's very obvious that when you look at every aspect of the universe, not that we can look at every aspect, but you know what I'm saying, from like the tiniest building blocks of life to all of the large scale, things that we see, there's order, there's process, there's divine design, there's fine tuning. That just does not happen by accident. And I was listening to a conversation from, do you guys know who Lex Friedman is? He's really into like the whole AI thing, and he does a podcast, and he's just a really brilliant guy. But he was interviewing this guy named Andrew Strominger, and I actually wrote this down, what he said.
Is he an MIT professor?
He might be. He's a theoretical physicist, and I forget, but that sounds right.
I have heard him.
Okay.
Now that you're saying it,
he sounds really smart.
He's really smart, but they were having this conversation. This really excited me when I heard him say this. He said, in order to answer every question, because they're talking about something called the theory of everything, and trying to figure out like how everything came into existence and all this kind of stuff. And so he said, in order to answer every question, we would need a theory of the origin of the universe. So everything comes back to that. In other words, like all the theoretical physics, quantum mechanics, like all this stuff comes back to that. That's why they're trying to figure out like how black holes work. They believe that at the center of every universe, if you believe in a multiverse or if you just believe in our universe or whatever, but at the center of the universe is a black hole. I don't know how that works, but like there's this just craziness of the stuff that they try to get to try to prove where this stuff came from. Right.
But why would God make a black hole? Like, what is the purpose of that? Right? There's got to be a purpose.
But he says we would need a theory of the origin of the universe. And the fact that the universe seems to have a beginning defies everything we know and love. Because here's what they all believe. They believe that because they believe that space, that the universe is expanding. And they can observe this, supposedly, with the telescopes they have and all the different things, that they're able to actually observe, that they believe that all the evidence that they have points to an expanding universe, which means that there has to be a starting point. Whether that's the Big Bang, as they would, most fall into the camp of the Big Bang, or for us, creation, whatever it is. But this is what they're saying. So it says, one of the basic principles of physics is determinism. that the present follows from the past, the future follows from the present, and so on. If at the origin we have a Big Bang, that means something followed from nothing. And we can't have a theory in which something followed from nothing. That excited me to hear him say that as a theoretical physicist, as somebody who is trying to come at understanding with apart from God. Whenever you try to understand these things that are ununderstandable in human finite intelligence, when you try to figure these things out apart from God, you have to ultimately just keep creating and inventing new ideas, new theories. You have to go further and further away from the source. You have to try to string things together and figure things out, and get to try to get to this point that it makes any kind of sense. And it's like it's just so obvious to me that when you look at if we stop trying to be so overly complicated and simplify everything, like just simplify, like just look at a human being, how a baby's born, a cell in your body, the parts of that cell and how intricate the detail is of the design of that cell, all of the proteins, all of just how everything comes together and has to function in absolute perfection in order for your body not to just completely fall apart. It's like all of this stuff that, again, with everything that we're talking about today, kind of like just having fun with this, talking about aliens, talking about the universe, talking about interdimensional travel and all this kind of stuff that's fun to think about. But, ultimately it's if we're not trying to do this apart from God, it really all, I think at the end, points back to the reality of God, of intelligent design. Agreed. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Agreed. I'm with you.
All right.
Well, guys,
put on my tinfoil hat now.
Yeah, we were going to do that. We were going to wear those today.
Yeah, I thought about making one, and then I didn't.
What would you have done if I just came on and had it
on? Yeah, awesome. I would have hit pause and gone to make one.
That's awesome. It was a great time, though. I had fun. I always have fun kind of talking about this stuff, and there's so many different rabbit holes you can go down. And I will say this. We did. We went down through a lot, but we stayed pretty much on topic. And I will say that this is probably one of the only times I've ever done that on a podcast. And that goes for all of your podcasts that I've been on.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all pretty much centered around the same theme. That is true. That rarely happens.
It rarely happens with me.
Well, I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm glad we got to do this. I'd love to do it again.
Same.
Is that it? Thanks, everybody.
All right, bye.
Am I the host?
You are the host.
Am I hosting this? It didn't feel like I was hosting this thing for a little while. I disappeared for a while.
That's what happens. You guys just podcast host and then Josh Wypij here.
Dude, we should do this, y'all. We should do this more often.
I was waiting for Josh to say that.
I'm down
to say this.
Yeah, to say we should do this.
I'm down.
This is the format that brings me joy, because there's different opinions, there's different types, we all think different but similar, enough, similar enough. I love that, because it could, I just hate, I don't know, Josiah, how Bad Christian used to be, when it was the three, it was good, and there was some pushback, and there was fun, and it was I've been wanting that in my life again, and it's Joe Rogan kind of gives you that, but it's just two people. Mm-hmm. It's nice when you get that third, because I can take a break for a while and just sit back and listen, and I enjoy that.
Yeah,
I'm down.
I'm taking it in more. I don't have to think about what I'm going to say next. Did you guys feel that way?
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
Just a little bit more chill.
If only there was a medium where by how we could do this.
What kind of
more
medium
often?
Are you talking about?
What we're doing right now.
A podcast. we got to think about that. Anyway, I'm just messing around.
Well, honestly, Fridays
I would love it.
If we did 1:30, we don't have to make them live, obviously, but if we did Fridays at 1:30, it would be pretty sweet.
We'll hire Duke to edit them all.
I don't do editing.
I'm down
I
with
don't
no
either.
editing.
Obviously,
I
you're
hate-
like you're live. I edit. I don't edit. I semi-edit.
I
What
do
do you
very
semi-edit?
basic editing. Very bit. You know, if I
Just
have to
down.
cut something out because audio's rough or
That's what I
something.
mean. That's
But yeah,
what I do.
It is scary doing it live a little bit because I'm like, there's a few times where this is a sidetrack, but like just recently somebody got mad at me for saying, "Oh my God," like got really upset with me and called me out in front of all of my leadership team, which was embarrassing. And the only thing I could think of saying as a rebuttal was, "I meant little G." Come on. And he didn't think it was funny.
Little G.
But
At
then
least you didn't say Jesus was a pagan.
oh, dude, it was so,
I mean,
that was so
or
funny.
or a
Penguin.
penguin.
That
Penguin or a penguin.
dude, when it went that way, that's gold, man. I'm sorry. That's
And that
stuff
only happened
you-
because that's what happens. You start talking about The Simpsons. I say Jesus was a penguin, and we just keep going.
what we could do though, like some fun things we could do is like doing drafts.
Should we end the episode and continue talking?
We probably should.
we are still live. This is premium content, everybody.
Are we still live?
We're just having a board meeting of the podcast that doesn't even exist yet.
Are we really live?
We're still live.
Oh gosh. Sorry, Al.
You didn't know?
No, I
Josh
thought we
is
were
like,
done.
You could have got him to say anything.
Josh is like
We're-
pulled out his cigar. Ooh, that was fun.
No, well,
have
to go
mine
back,
right
it's
next
like
to
when
me.
it's live, it is scary for people watching because you're like, you don't want to say misspeak, you don't want to be taken out of context, you don't want to say anything stupid, like you just and you don't want to offend people either. Like I don't
Right.
purposely want to offend people. That's never my, but I find myself doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I was on this podcast was with Duke. And the first time I was on, we were having these conversations. We were just having fun. And that lady, remember that lady that hit you up on LinkedIn, told you that I was like a heretic and all this stuff? Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this is like.
Yeah,
what
we
it's like
weren't
be on
supposed to
the
be joking
interwebs.
around. Yeah, the interwebs.
She did not like that I was a pastor making jokes. She hated that.
Yeah.
I also
probably
got
end
flack
this.
when I was on with you. I got the guy saying tattoos were against God and divorce is against
Oh,
God. and
yeah.
that I was remarried. like
Oh,
yeah.
hell, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
Josh, didn't you go after that guy in the comments?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, Josh did. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was you. That you kind of you were like the bouncer.
That is
Just
totally.
kind of like,
See, this
hey
was,
man,
this was formatted from the
you
beginning.
you went after the bot that may or may not have been a real person.
It was an
That's totally
alien.
my MO. I mean, that's kind of what I'm known for. For
All right,
better or
we're
for
gonna.
worse.
I'm gonna hit the end button.
Please,
Bye.
please. Bye,
Don't go
everybody.
anywhere. All right, bye everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks Frank for all your input. Appreciate you, brother.
And Justin Withy. Yep. See you again.
Follow
And
me on
Justin.
LinkedIn.